high-definition news for Tuesday morning, October 28th, 2014. I'm Jeff Kaufman.
It is common sense, and we're not moving an inch. Our policy hasn't changed, and our policy will not change.
New Jersey's tough-talking Governor Chris Christie defiant in his defense of the involuntary quarantine that kept healthcare worker Casey Hickox confined to a tent in the parking lot of a Newark hospital, without plumbing, without clothing except for a paper hospital gown, despite the fact that she was without symptoms upon her return to the U.S. after caring for Ebola patients in West Africa. Casey Hickox is back home this morning in Fort Kent, Maine, near the Canadian border. She arrived last night after Governor Christie okayed her release from that quarantine, a release that certainly looks like Hickox herself had a lot to do with, since she began a public relations campaign Sunday morning on CNN's State of the Union.
The first thing I would say to Governor Christie is that I wish that he would be more careful about his statements related to my medical condition. I am not, as he said, quote, unquote, obviously ill. I am completely healthy and with no symptoms. And if he knew anything about Ebola, he would know that asymptomatic people are not infectious. I understand that people feel like they have a risk, and I think we can have a conversation about what further measures might look like. But I think this is an extreme that is really unacceptable, and I feel like my basic human rights have been violated.
Less than 24 hours later, Governor Christie backed down and ordered her release. Up in Maine, Fort Kent Town Manager Donald Gimon told CBS Radio this morning they'll take precautions, but they will not go crazy.
Do we need to be concerned because of what's going on in that part of the world? Yes, we do, but we don't need to panic about it. We need to have the protocol in place. We need to welcome her back home.
Hickox will be in isolation at her boyfriend's home for the incubation period of Ebola, 21 days. Her attorney, Norman Siegel, told CNN this morning that the handling of her case is no way to inspire public confidence in the government's ability to respond to a health emergency.
If it turns out that her temperature is normal, she has no symptoms of the disease, there's no reason for her to be restricted. If there are symptoms, then you deal with it differently. I'm not opposed to the fact that the government has the power to use quarantine. They just have to do it correctly, and so far, we've bungled it.
But Governor Christie was having none of it this morning. He told Matt Lauer on the Today Show that he was right and he would do it again.
When they're in direct contact with people actively with the Ebola virus, asking them to quarantine at home for 21 days, unless they're symptomatic, I don't think is draconian. And I think Dr. Fauci is responding, unfortunately, as are many of the people from the CDC, in a really hyperbolic way because they've been wrong before. And now they're incrementally taking steps towards the policy that we put in effect in New Jersey, and now 6 other states have put effect, and the Joint Chiefs of Staff have put in effect. I mean, we're all wrong, and they're right, Matt. We're trying to be careful here. This is common sense, and the members of the American public believe it is common sense, and we're not moving an inch. Our policy hasn't changed, and our policy will not change.
Also on Ebola this morning, some good news. Amber Vinson, the second nurse to come down with Ebola after treating Thomas Duncan in Dallas, she's been declared free of Ebola and will be released in a few hours from Emory University Medical Center in Atlanta. She was flown there for treatment from Texas Health Presbyterian in Dallas. She's due to hold a news conference at about 10 a.m. Pacific time, but we're told she will not answer any questions. Dr. Craig Spencer, the physician who came down with Ebola after coming home from West Africa, is in serious but stable condition this morning at New York's Bellevue Medical Center. In the same hospital, a 5-year-old boy who arrived on a flight at JFK vomiting and with a fever, he tested negative for Ebola last night, but he's still in the hospital because authorities say he needs to undergo more testing, but they don't say what for. By the way, Bellevue has transferred all of its ICU patients to New York University Langone Medical Center. Bellevue says it does not have enough nurses to handle both the Ebola and the ICU patients. They think they have found patient 0 in this current Ebola outbreak, and 0 is not too far from his age. The first Ebola victim is thought to be a 2-year-old boy who died a year ago in southern Guinea. The disease also killed his mom, his sister, and his grandma, and epidemiologists think that the virus began its widespread at his grandma's funeral. Fear has been so much a part of this Ebola outbreak. So in Orange County last night, UC Irvine invited people from the community in to hear not from politicians or commentators or even highly conscientious radio news reporters.
I have never heard or seen such outrageous, frantic, hysterical, vicious, distorted reporting. I'm not blaming anybody for that.
All right, you. Halloween's not till Friday. To hear from medical experts like the university's Michael Buckmeyer, an expert in infectious diseases.
What we're preparing for is a disease that is terrifying, that may seem uncontrollable, but is eventually. That what we really have to do is stay calm.
One way to stay calm about Ebola is to make sure that you don't catch anything that has symptoms that at first are just like Ebola's. And the best way to do that is to get a flu shot. See what I did there? The LA County Health Department is making it even easier for you this year by expanding the number of places you can get a free flu shot to include public libraries, as well as the traditional clinics and hospitals. You can find out more by calling 211 in LA County or clicking yourself over to publichealth.lacounty.gov. Not now, when the news is over. Another day, another water main break in Southern California as the aging infrastructure shows the folly of deferred maintenance. This one's spectacular, the corner of Santa Monica Boulevard and Highland Avenue in Hollywood, one of the area's busiest intersections. There's no geyser of water shooting into the air, but water is flowing south on Highland Avenue, damaging businesses and making a mess of traffic. Maybe he's still in line in the men's room. A 53-year-old suburban Denver man has left his seat during Thursday night's Broncos game at Sports Authority Field. He never came back, and Denver police say they do not have any clue where he is, though they also do not suspect foul play. Paul Kitterman was at the game with his young son and a friend. Have you driven a Ford lately? The people of Toronto have. Voters have driven the Ford family right out of the mayor's office. Doug Ford was defeated yesterday in his attempt to succeed his brother Rob as mayor of Canada's largest city, but the now former crack-smoking mayor, Rob Ford, was elected to the city council. He's also still in treatment for a tumor in his abdomen, the reason he gave for dropping out of the mayor's race. Still, former crack-smoking city councilman just doesn't have the same ring to it. When you're connecting to a new Wi-Fi hotspot or router, have you noticed the crazy names some people give their Wi-Fi networks? A passenger aboard an American Airlines flight about to depart from LAX on Sunday noticed a familiar name among the Wi-Fi networks available on his device. He reported it to flight attendants. A few minutes later, cops stormed the plane. The name the guy saw was Al-Qaeda Free Terror Network. Now, both Al-Qaeda and network were misspelled, but the cops needed to check it out anyway. They didn't find anything, but the passengers were held on the plane for a bit, and eventually American just canceled the flight. Last year, on the anniversary of 9/11, someone at LAX reported they'd seen a Wi-Fi network pop up with the name Southwest Bomb on board. One person was arrested in connection with that one. If your holiday gifts are a few days late this year, don't blame Santa or the non-union elves working for a non-living wage in the sweatshops of the North Pole. Blame congestion at Long Beach Harbor. Some shippers report their goods have been delayed between 2 and 3 weeks. Remember, it's still October, a long way to go before Christmas. This trucking company executive told Channel 2 that he cannot even get his trucks into the port at the LBC.
For me, it's very frustrating. My customers are pulling their hair out. I'm turning down 20 calls a day. We have enough trucks to service the industry. It's the port congestion and the long visit times that the trucks experience that are creating most of the delays.
You might want to put out something a little stronger than milk and cookies for Santa on Christmas Eve. He might need it. Most people enjoy high-definition news served piping hot in the morning. Others love it that it retains its flavor all the way through lunch. You can listen later, anytime, at highdefinitionnews.com. That's H-I Definition News. All one word. Here's some catch-up for your Tuesday breakfast. This happened since you stopped paying attention yesterday.
Welcome back. Your dreams were your ticket out.
Baby boomers lost another of their TV moms last week. Marcia Strassman played the wife of the title character in the 1970s sitcom Welcome Back, Kotter, which may be most famous today for launching the career of John Travolta, who played one of the sweat hogs, the semi-delinquents with hearts of gold who made up the class taught by Mr. Kotter. Kotter was played by Gabe Kaplan. Marcia Strassman also starred in Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. She was 66 when she died at home in Sherman Oaks on Friday of cancer.
We got him on the spot. Welcome back.
Now you know what we know. I'm Jeff Kaufman, High Definition News.